Sometimes we get so wrapped up in the whirlwind of life that we forget the power of stillness. We find ourselves chasing something or someone so hard that we lose sight of who we are and what we're worth. It's easy to lose ourselves in the pursuit, but today I want to remind you of this: you are enough, and you don't have to chase after anyone or anything to prove it. Let me tell you something I wish I'd understood years ago. If you find yourself in a place where you're begging, chasing, or constantly reaching out, it's time to pause. Not because you're not worth it, not because you don't deserve love, attention, or support, but because true connection doesn't require begging. It flows naturally. If you have to chase it down, it was never yours to begin with. And I know how it feels to want to reach out when you're holding on to memories, holding on to what could have been. But let me tell you, when something is meant to be in your life, it will find a way. I promise you that. Don't waste your energy chasing what doesn't run toward you. Don't send words that fall on deaf ears. Don't write messages that leave you feeling more empty than fulfilled. If you've been writing, calling, reaching out, trying to make someone see your worth, today is the day you stop. Because here's what I've learned: the most important person you need to reach out to is yourself. Turn inward and reconnect with that deep, beautiful soul inside you, the one that knows her worth, the one that knows she doesn't need to chase, beg, or prove herself to be loved. There's a beauty in being able to look in the mirror and feel truly at peace with the person looking back at you. It's a feeling that at its core comes from knowing on a deep and unshakable level that you are enough exactly as you are. But in today's world, that's easier said than done. We are surrounded by images, ideals, and messages that seem to say the opposite. They say we need to look a certain way, talk a certain way, be someone else entirely just to be accepted, to be loved, or to be respected. But the truth, the undeniable truth, is that nothing external defines your worth. That knowing, that belief that you are enough has to come from within. Because when it's truly believed from within, no outside force can shake it, no opinion can challenge it, and no person can take it away. Imagine how it feels to be free of the need to please everyone around you. Imagine waking up in the morning and feeling joy simply for being alive, not because of who approves of you or because of what you think you need to accomplish to be worthwhile. It's a radical shift to see yourself in this way, yet it's the shift that can open doors to real peace and happiness. This isn't about arrogance or feeling superior. It's about understanding that you hold inherent value and that this value doesn't hinge on anyone else's approval. It's a freedom that comes from knowing you don't have to earn the right to exist or to be loved. You simply are valuable. When you understand this, life starts to feel lighter, richer, more fulfilling. You begin to release the urge to compare yourself to others or measure your worth by anyone else's yardstick. This is about finding contentment with the person you are, imperfections and all. And it's about loving that person deeply, even on days when the world feels heavy. Knowing you are enough also means releasing the need to chase after anyone or anything to prove your worth. It means you don't have to constantly look outward for validation or for someone to tell you that you're valuable. You don't need to reach out to people who don't reciprocate or prove yourself to those who don't recognize your worth. The people and opportunities that are meant for you will be drawn to your authenticity, to the genuine spirit within you that doesn't compromise or change just to fit someone else's mold. The value of being true to yourself, of honoring who you are without needing to modify or mute your essence, is that the right people, the ones who see your true worth, will recognize you exactly as you are. And isn't that what real connection is all about? When you let go of trying to prove yourself, when you stop chasing, and when you stand firm in who you are, you attract people and circumstances that align with your true self. It's an incredible feeling to walk through life knowing that you don't have to beg for what you deserve. Imagine how your relationships change when you come from a place of self-assuredness, of knowing that you bring something unique, something irreplaceable, just by being yourself. Imagine how different your choices become when they're not rooted in fear or the need for acceptance. You begin to make decisions that honor your spirit, that align with your values, and that contribute to your growth. You stop compromising on things that don't serve you, and you start creating a life that reflects your authentic self. It's a life filled with meaningful relationships, fulfilling work, and inner peace, not because you sought those things to complete you, but because you allowed them to enter a life that was already whole. The moment you realize you are enough is the moment you start living fully, without the weight of others' expectations on your shoulders. You start to set boundaries that protect your well-being, and you begin to trust yourself more deeply. You stop settling for less than what you deserve, and you begin to choose the paths that resonate with your soul. These aren't selfish acts, they're acts of self-preservation and self-love. They're the foundation of a life where you no longer give away pieces of yourself just to be accepted. You begin to see that your worth is not something that can be added to or taken away by someone else's opinion or by any external measure. It's there within you, steady, constant, and unwavering. And when you know this, you no longer feel the urge to chase after approval or to seek validation from others because you are enough just as you are. The world may try to tell you that you need to do more, be more, or give more in order to be loved or to be loved or to be valued, but you get to decide whether to believe that. You get to decide whether to play by those rules or to create your own. When you see yourself as enough, you set the standard for how others should treat you. You communicate both through your words and your actions that you will not accept anything less than respect, kindness, and honesty. You don't have to demand these things. You simply attract them by being steadfast in your own value. And if someone doesn't see that, you don't need to convince them or to try harder to make them stay. You let them go, knowing that their presence or absence doesn't diminish your worth in any way. When you know you are enough, you're no longer afraid of being alone. You're no longer afraid of what people might say or of the judgments they might make. You find a strength within you that is so much greater than any validation the outside world could offer. And this strength becomes your foundation. It becomes the wellspring from which you draw your confidence, your joy, and your peace. You begin to see life as an opportunity to grow, to explore, and to love not because you're trying to fill a void, but because you're overflowing with a sense of wholeness that needs no justification. You are complete, and you understand that completeness is not something anyone can give you or take away from you. It's something you carry within you every single day. You have everything you need within yourself to live a beautiful, meaningful life. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, and you don't need to constantly seek approval to know your value. When you let go of that need, you free yourself from the weight of expectations and from the stress of trying to be something other than who you are. True connection is one of the most beautiful things we can experience in life. It's a feeling of belonging, understanding, and respect that doesn't demand proof or validation. It just is. When we're truly connected to someone, we don't feel the need to beg for attention, chase after validation, or put ourselves in situations that compromise our dignity. Instead, true connection flows effortlessly. It's the kind of relationship that brings peace rather than worry and joy rather than stress. True connections don't make you question your worth or feel insecure about who you are. They affirm you. They remind you that you're valued for the person you truly are, not for what you do or how much you give. There's a certain ease in these relationships, a freedom to be yourself without fear of judgment or rejection, because deep down you know that the connection is built on mutual respect and understanding, not on constant effort or proof. When a connection is genuine, it doesn't require you to chase it down. It doesn't ask you to keep reaching out, keep proving yourself, or keep changing who you are. It doesn't make you feel like you're asking too much simply by wanting to be treated with kindness and respect. True connections just happen. They're rooted in something real and honest, and they aren't defined by convenience or circumstance. They're based on a mutual desire to be present for each other, to support each other, and to see each other grow. And when we feel secure in these connections, we don't feel the urge to overextend ourselves because we know that the relationship is strong enough to withstand time and distance. In a true connection, you know that the other person will be there for you, not because you're constantly reminding them, but because they genuinely care. And when that happens, you realize that there's no need to beg for attention or affirmation because the bond you share speaks for itself. So many people spend years in relationships where they feel like they're constantly asking for more. They feel as though they're putting in all the effort while the other person barely meets them halfway. They may feel anxious, overanalyzing every interaction, wondering what they could do differently to make the relationship work. But the truth is, a real connection doesn't leave you feeling like this. It doesn't leave you feeling drained or uncertain. It doesn't force you to compromise your own well-being just to keep someone in your life. True connection adds to your life rather than taking from it. It's there for you when you need it, and it doesn't require you to change who you are just to fit someone else's expectations. When you find a relationship like that, you know it because it feels like coming home. It feels safe, supportive, and genuine, and it fills you up rather than depleting you. A true connection doesn't require you to constantly reach out, text, or call just to keep it alive. It's like a river that flows naturally. It doesn't need you to force it or to push it along. It has its own pace, its own rhythm, and it continues whether you're actively tending to it or not. When you have this kind of connection, you can go days, weeks, or even months without talking, and yet when you do reconnect, it's as if no time has passed. You're both there, fully present, fully engaged, and fully committed to each other's well-being. You don't feel the need to fill the silence or prove your value because the connection itself is proof enough. It's a bond that's unbreakable, not because you're constantly working at it, but because it's rooted in something real and honest. And that's the beauty of true connection. It doesn't demand that you prove yourself. It doesn't ask you to go out of your way to earn it. And it doesn't require you to sacrifice your own needs or well-being just to keep it intact. When we find ourselves in relationships that require constant effort, it's important to ask ourselves why. Why do we feel the need to beg for someone's time, attention, or love? Why are we willing to chase after someone who doesn't seem to value us? When we ask ourselves these questions, we often realize that it's not about the other person at all, it's about us. It's about our own need for validation, our own fears of abandonment, and our own insecurities. But when we're secure in who we are, when we know our worth and value, we no longer feel the need to chase after people who don't reciprocate. We understand that true connection is a two-way street. It's something that's built on mutual respect, love, and understanding. And it doesn't require us to sacrifice our own well-being just to keep it alive. When we understand this, we free ourselves from the need to beg, chase, or constantly reach out, and we start to recognize the relationships in our lives that are truly meaningful. True connections don't come around every day, and they're worth cherishing when they do. They're worth nurturing, respecting, and valuing, but they're not worth sacrificing our own self-respect or dignity. They're not worth compromising our own happiness or well-being just to keep someone else happy. In a true connection, both people are committed to each other's happiness and well-being, and they're willing to put in the effort to make the relationship work. But this effort is different from begging or chasing. It's an effort that comes from a place of love and respect, not from a place of fear or desperation. It's an effort that feels natural, that flows effortlessly, and that doesn't require us to compromise who we are or what we believe in. When you're in a true connection, you feel seen, valued, and respected for who you are. You don't feel like you have to put on a mask or pretend to be someone you're not just to fit in. You're free to be yourself, to express your thoughts and feelings openly, and to be vulnerable without fear of rejection. This is the kind of connection that brings out the best in you, that makes you feel more alive, more fulfilled, and more at peace with yourself. It's a connection that reminds you of your own worth, that encourages you to be the best version of yourself, and that supports you in your journey of growth and self-discovery. And when you experience this kind of connection, you realize that you don't need to beg, chase, or constantly reach out just to feel valued. The connection itself is enough. It's a testament to the bond you share, and it's something that doesn't require constant effort to maintain. True connections are a gift, and they're something to be cherished and valued, but they're not something to be forced or controlled. They're not something that requires you to sacrifice your own happiness or well-being just to keep them intact. True connections flow naturally. They're built on a foundation of mutual respect, love, and understanding, and they don't require you to beg, chase, or constantly reach out just to keep them alive. When you find a connection like this, you know it because it brings a sense of peace and joy that's unlike anything else. It's a connection that reminds you of your own worth, that supports you in your journey, and that encourages you to be the best version of yourself. Here's an expansion on the third keynote. When something is meant for you, it will find its way without any ending sentences or headings. Life often takes us through twists and turns we can't predict, and many times we find ourselves questioning if we're on the right path. We wonder if the things we want are slipping through our fingers, or if we're missing out on something that's supposed to be ours. But one of the most comforting realizations we can have is that when something is meant for us, it will find its way to us. No amount of time, distance, or obstacles can prevent what's truly meant for us from coming into our lives. There's a force, a flow, a sense of alignment that happens when we're on a path that resonates deeply with who we are and what we're meant to experience. It's not about forcing things to happen or constantly striving to make things go our way. It's about letting go of control, trusting that the universe or life itself has a plan that is unfolding exactly as it should. And recognizing that what's truly ours will come to us in the right way and at the right time. Trusting that what's meant for us will find its way requires a certain level of patience and faith. In a world that values instant gratification and quick results, patience isn't always easy. We want things to happen on our timeline. We want to know that our hard work will pay off right away. But when we can let go of the need to have everything figured out right now, when we can embrace the uncertainty, we create space for life to bring us what's truly meant for us. This isn't about sitting back and doing nothing. It's about taking action from a place of trust rather than desperation. It's about putting our best efforts forward, knowing that we're doing everything we can, and then releasing our grip on the outcome. It's trusting that if something is truly meant to be a part of our lives, it will come to us, even if it takes longer than we expected or arrives in a way we didn't anticipate. One of the greatest struggles people face is the feeling of constantly needing to chase after what they want. We've been taught that success requires relentless pursuit, that love requires constant effort, and that happiness requires chasing down every opportunity. But the truth is, chasing rarely leads to fulfillment. More often than not, it leaves us feeling exhausted, depleted, and sometimes even unworthy. When we chase after things, we operate from a place of fear that if we don't act, we'll miss out, that if we don't keep pushing, someone else will take what's meant for us. But when we shift our perspective, when we begin to trust that what's meant for us will find us, we stop chasing and start attracting. We begin to see that we don't need to exhaust ourselves in pursuit of what we desire. Instead, we can focus on becoming the person we need to be to receive it. We start to realize that life flows more easily when we allow things to come to us rather than constantly pushing and pulling to make them happen. Letting go of the chase doesn't mean we stop caring about what we want or that we stop working toward our goals. It means we stop gripping so tightly to our expectations of how things should be. We let go of the need to control every detail. And we start to trust that life has a way of bringing us what's meant for us in ways we might never have imagined. Sometimes we miss out on opportunities or face unexpected detours, and it's easy to feel frustrated or discouraged. But what we may not see in the moment is that these detours often lead us to something even better, something we never would have found if things had gone according to our original plan. When we trust the timing of our lives, we open ourselves up to possibilities we hadn't considered. We stop seeing obstacles as barriers and start seeing them as redirections towards something that is more aligned with who we are and what we're meant to experience. There's a calmness, a sense of peace that comes when we let go of the need to have everything go our way. When we trust that what's meant for us will find us, we free ourselves from the anxiety of trying to make everything happen on our own. We start to recognize that there are forces at play that are greater than we are, forces that know more than we do, and that can see the bigger picture. It's like planting a seed, we water it, we make sure it has sunlight, and we give it the best conditions to grow. But we don't sit there and pull on the seedling, trying to force it to grow faster. We trust that in time, with the right conditions, it will become the plant it was meant to be. The same is true for our lives. We do our part, we show up, we put in the work, but we also trust that in time, what's meant for us will come to us. It may not come when we expect it. It may not come in the way we envision. Experiences, people, and opportunities that are truly meant for us will find their way to us. Even if it doesn't happen as quickly as we'd like, we can let go of the need to rush, the need to control, and the need to force things into place. We can embrace the journey knowing that every step, every experience, and every encounter is leading us closer to what's truly ours. And when we live from this place of trust and surrender, we find a new level of freedom and peace. We stop carrying the weight of worry and fear, and we start living with a sense of calm confidence, knowing that life is unfolding exactly as it should. When something is meant for us, it doesn't require us to constantly chase after it or to prove ourselves worthy of it. It comes to us naturally because it's in alignment with who we are and what we're meant to experience. It's like a magnet when we're in alignment with our true selves. The things that are meant for us are drawn to us without effort. We attract the people, opportunities, and experiences that resonate with our energy, and we begin to realize that we don't have to fight or struggle to receive what's truly ours. This is the beauty of living with trust. It allows us to flow with life rather than fighting against it. It allows us to embrace each moment, knowing that everything is happening for a reason and that everything is leading us closer to what's meant for us. And as we move through life with this sense of trust and openness, we find that life becomes more fulfilling, more joyful, and more meaningful because we're no longer chasing after things that aren't meant for us, but allowing what's truly ours to come into our lives. Real self-worth is a powerful internal foundation that we build over time. It's the quiet, steady assurance we carry within, the belief that we are valuable simply for who we are, not for who chooses to see us or who recognizes that value. When we look to others for validation, we're stepping onto an unstable ground, relying on opinions, moods, and perceptions that can change without notice. Building true self-worth requires us to step back from that need for approval and instead turn inward. It's about making the conscious decision to honor ourselves, to stand by our values, and to nurture the qualities that make us who we are. True self-worth isn't an external measure, it's a commitment we make every day to respect, love, and choose ourselves, regardless of who else does or doesn't. It's a deep, enduring connection with ourselves that cannot be shaken by others' judgments, rejections, or indifference. Choosing ourselves is not a one-time decision, it's a practice, a way of living that says, I am enough as I am, and I am worthy of the same love and respect I freely offer others. When we anchor our sense of self-worth within, we stop chasing external validation, and this changes the way we interact with the world around us. We stop viewing others' choices as a reflection of our own value, and we begin to see them simply as reflections of who they are and what they're going through. We no longer take rejection as a personal failure or a sign that we are somehow lacking. We see it as part of life's natural flow. Real self-worth allows us to understand that everyone we encounter is moving through their own journey, and their choices don't define us. When we let go of the idea that our worth is dependent on someone else's acceptance, we set ourselves free. We give ourselves permission to be fully present, to be ourselves, and to embrace our strengths and our flaws alike. We start to see the beauty in our uniqueness, in the parts of ourselves that don't always fit into society's mold, and we learn to celebrate these differences rather than hide them. Our worth becomes something we carry with us, an inner strength that doesn't waver no matter who is or isn't in our lives. Choosing ourselves is not about being selfish or pushing others away. It's about recognizing that we are responsible for our own happiness, our own growth, and our own well-being. When we choose ourselves, we're saying that we matter, that our dreams and aspirations are just as important as anyone else's. We're giving ourselves the space and permission to pursue what makes us feel alive, fulfilled, and joyful. This commitment to ourselves becomes a guiding light that helps us navigate relationships, career choices, and personal challenges. It's a declaration that we're not going to compromise our values, diminish our dreams, or ignore our needs to fit someone else's vision of who we should be. By choosing ourselves, we're taking ownership of our lives, and we're creating a foundation that cannot be shaken by temporary circumstances or fleeting opinions. We learn to set boundaries that protect our peace, to let go of relationships that drain us, and to surround ourselves with people who uplift and support us, rather than those who make us question our worth. When we choose ourselves deeply and fully, we stop waiting for someone else to come along and make us feel complete. We recognize that no one can fill the spaces within us that we haven't yet filled ourselves. If we don't believe we're worthy of love, no amount of external validation will make us feel loved. If we don't believe we're valuable, no praise or accolades will make us feel truly valuable. Real self-worth is an inner journey, one that requires us to confront our own insecurities, doubts, and fears. It's not always easy sometimes. It means facing uncomfortable truths, letting go of old narratives that no longer serve us, and embracing parts of ourselves we may have hidden for fear of judgment. But as we do this inner work, as we peel back the layers and get to the core of who we are, we find a sense of peace and fulfillment that isn't dependent on anyone or anything outside of ourselves. We begin to feel a sense of contentment, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing we are enough, just as we are. Choosing ourselves also means learning to forgive ourselves. It means letting go of past mistakes, of times we may have settled for less, of moments we compromised our worth for someone else's approval. We recognize that these moments don't define us, they're simply part of our journey, lessons that have brought us closer to who we truly are. Forgiving ourselves allows us to let go of the guilt, shame, or regret that may have weighed us down, and it gives us the freedom to move forward without carrying the past on our shoulders. This forgiveness is an essential part of building self-worth because it allows us to see ourselves with compassion and understanding. We begin to treat ourselves with the same kindness we offer to others, and we realize that we too are deserving of grace and patience. This self-compassion becomes a powerful tool that strengthens our sense of worth and empowers us to make choices that align with our values and dreams. As we continue to choose ourselves, we become more intentional about the people and situations we allow into our lives. We're no longer willing to settle for relationships that are one-sided, jobs that don't fulfill us, or situations that compromise our values. We recognize that we deserve more than just the bare minimum, and we're willing to wait for what truly aligns with who we are. We start to attract people who value us for who we are, not for what we can give them or how well we fit into their plans. These relationships are built on mutual respect, understanding, and a shared commitment to each other's growth. And when we're surrounded by people who truly see us, value us, and respect us, our sense of self-worth is reinforced. We begin to experience a different kind of love, one that is genuine, supportive, and free from conditions or expectations. There's a certain freedom in knowing that our worth isn't tied to anyone else's opinions, decisions, or actions. We no longer feel the need to prove ourselves, to win someone's approval, or to change who we are just to be accepted. Instead, we embrace our authenticity, our individuality, and our uniqueness. We stand tall in our truth, knowing that we are enough, that we have something valuable to offer, and that we deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. This self-assurance allows us to move through life with confidence, to take risks, and to pursue our dreams without fear of judgment or rejection. We become more resilient, more courageous, and more willing to step outside of our comfort zones, because we know that our worth is not determined by the outcome. It's determined by how we show up for ourselves, by the love and respect we give ourselves, and by the commitment we have to our own growth and well-being. True self-worth is an unshakable foundation that allows us to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and resilience. It's the knowledge that no matter what happens, we have our own back. We don't need someone else to complete us because we are already whole. We don't need someone else's validation because we already know our value. And we don't need someone else's approval because we have already chosen ourselves. This inner strength is something no one can take away from us because it's built on a foundation of self-love, self-respect, and self-acceptance. It's a gift we give ourselves, a commitment that lasts a lifetime, and a source of peace and fulfillment that carries us through every stage of our journey. When we choose ourselves deeply and fully, we unlock a sense of freedom, confidence, and joy that transforms every aspect of our lives. Here's an expansion on the keynote, never lower your standards for anyone instead. Let them rise to meet you without any ending sentences or headings. Maintaining high standards in our lives is not about being difficult or demanding. It's about valuing ourselves and understanding that we deserve relationships, environments, and experiences that respect and honor who we are. Standards represent the boundaries we set for ourselves, the measure of what we are willing to accept and tolerate. They're the guidelines we create to protect our well-being, preserve our dignity, and maintain a sense of self-worth. Too often, people lower their standards to fit into someone else's idea of who they should be or to make others comfortable. They sacrifice what they truly need, compromise on their values, or accept behavior that doesn't align with their expectations. But when we lower our standards for the sake of others, we diminish our own worth in the process. Instead, we should allow others to rise to meet the standards we set, letting them show that they can honor our boundaries and respect our worth. This is not about arrogance or pride. It's about self-respect and holding ourselves accountable to the life we truly desire and deserve. Setting high standards begins with understanding our values, needs, and what makes us feel respected and appreciated. It's about taking the time to know ourselves and determine what we will and will not accept in our lives. When we have clarity on what we deserve, we're able to communicate our expectations clearly, and others can then make the choice to either rise to meet those standards or walk away. This clarity creates a natural filter that attracts people who respect and value us while weeding out those who do not align with our vision of a healthy relationship or environment. Setting high standards isn't about creating barriers or pushing people away. It's about inviting those who truly value us to step forward. It's about creating space for relationships and experiences that are fulfilling, supportive, and mutually respectful. And by doing so, we attract people who are willing to put in the effort, who recognize our value, and who see our standards as a reflection of self-respect and not as an unreasonable demand. Choosing not to lower our standards is a choice that stems from self-respect, a deep understanding that we are deserving of love, kindness, and respect. It means that we trust ourselves enough to know that compromising on our values won't bring us closer to what we truly want. Instead, it will only leave us feeling unfulfilled and diminished. When we keep our standards high, we give ourselves permission to say no to situations, people, and relationships that do not serve us. We become more selective, more discerning, and more intentional about who and what we allow into our lives. This is not about being judgmental or dismissive of others. It's about being protective of our well-being and honoring the life we've worked hard to build. We know that the right people, those who genuinely care for us and value us, will see our standards not as obstacles, but as an invitation to step up and prove their commitment to a meaningful connection. When we refuse to lower our standards, we encourage others to see us for who we truly are. We're not just accepting any behavior or settling for less than we deserve. We're standing firm in our belief that we are worthy of respect, honesty, and commitment. This steadfastness sends a powerful message not only to others but also to ourselves, that we value ourselves too much to compromise our integrity. We're telling the world that we are not willing to be treated as an afterthought or an option, but as someone who is deserving of attention, respect, and care. This commitment to our standards is a reflection of our own self-worth and a reminder that we are responsible for setting the tone for how others treat us. By holding ourselves to these standards, we cultivate relationships that are healthy, genuine, and uplifting. Keeping our standards high may mean that some people will not be able to meet them, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to be in our lives, and that's a reality we must accept. By maintaining our standards, we create space for people who are aligned with our values and who respect the boundaries we've set. We allow only those who are willing to invest in a mutually respectful relationship to enter our lives. This process can be challenging because it may mean letting go of people who cannot rise to meet our expectations, but it's a necessary step in cultivating a life that is rich in quality relationships and experiences. We start to see that by maintaining our standards, we attract people who are on the same wavelength, who share similar values, and who understand the importance of respect and mutual growth.